Hello, space friends. Captain Snuggles here, back from an unexpected 3-month hiatus to bring you some more Space Haven content. When we last left off, we were in the process of invading the homeworlds of the wretched Slaver faction to try and bring some kind of peace and security to this galaxy. So we're back with the Snughaven and its intrepid crew, trying to do just that. We found ourselves in a merchant sector, just trying to stock up before we go and fight some more slavers. Minor issue is, well, this sector is infested by aliens, and so, after a little bit of shopping here, we're going to send out our fighters to try and keep the alien swarm off of the merchants. You can see the aliens starting to emerge from the derelict station over there, and they will soon start making their way towards us and towards the merchant station. So we're going to try and prevent that, trying to do at least a little bit of good wherever we go. So here they come now. Trying to dispatch some fighters to intercept them. Struggling with the fighter UI as always, but it looks like we're getting there. It appears as though both of the alien infestors are going to make their way towards the merchants, so I'm sending out my 2 crack pilots, Allergy and Sherry, to try and take them down. Looks like that shouldn't be too much of a problem with the help of the merchant's point defense, but it is going to be close. One of them has touched down, but luckily fighters can keep shooting alien pods after they're attached, whereas point defense can't. So, a little bit closer than maybe it should have been, but we got it done. Now the question becomes what to do about this derelict. Do we just leave it sitting here and focus on our main mission, or do we try to clear it out and just fully secure this sector? Looks like that decision is made. Not necessarily bringing up the A-team for this, but bringing up Talia and Tyrus, both of whom are very good fighters, as well as Sarah and Hayden, both of whom I'm trying to train. So, hoping that this alien-infested derelict won't be too much of a challenge. We can get a little bit of training, and maybe a few supplies, and move on. And immediately we pop out of the shuttle and see a ton of alien eggs and alien crawlers, as well as one potential refugee in a hypersleep pod over there. So it's looking like this might be a little bit of a fight here. Just looking at the spot those alien eggs spawned, it seems likely that there is an alien hive core somewhere in that dark part of the ship there that's just producing these eggs over and over again. So we're going to try and make our way in there and take it out, but that's easier said than done, as we've just caught a glimpse of an insane alien swarm, a bunch of crawlers, a bunch of these massive haulers. The haulers can do a tremendous amount of burst damage if they hit with their charge, and the crawlers, if they can get up on you and surround your people, are no joke either, although they're quite a bit easier to kill. So here we go, trying to bait the haulers out with Tyrus, my big beefy MVP. Surround them and kill them. Trying to take it methodically, securing the hypersleep pod of Katie here. Not going to open it yet. Trying to get it secured. Little wrench getting thrown in my plan here as new eggs are spawning, probably getting pushed through the vents of the ship or something like that. And it looks like I'm gonna need to open up a second front of this little battle here. So I'm bringing out some of my stronger fighters in my second shuttle. Sending them over to try and deal with with those new spawns. Meanwhile, over here on the western front, starting to make some progress. Looks like I might have made it to the first door at least. This is very clearly not going to be the easy cleanup job I was hoping for. Gonna have to chew our way through this infested derelict room by room. Made it into the crew lounge, are immediately greeted by a hauler, so we're gonna need to get out of there ASAP. Still haven't taken any major damage so far, but the energy bars, those yellow bars above the crew members, are starting to dip down below half. Just barely dodging another hauler charge. All good so far. Just kiting on back. Pretty standard stuff so far, no major complications. Just, we're not making any actual headway because the alien hives are going to keep spawning alien eggs. The alien eggs are going to keep spawning aliens, unsurprisingly. So we really need to push through this room. Otherwise, we're not likely to win this battle of attrition. So people are getting tired. I'm sending them in again. Trying to make some kind of progress here. Opening up that second front. Trying to clear out the eastern end of the ship. While the first squad holds down the lounge here. Hayden, the sacrificial lamb, being sent up to open the door. Definitely drawing a short straw on that one. That is a dangerous job. Right now it looks like just crawlers and egg sacs on the far side of that door. And... I saw out of the corner of my eye there a hauler charged out. Luckily it attacked Tyrus, and Tyrus is a tough customer. But now there's another one making its way out. And we fail to dodge that time. Talia gets hit. Still not... just a glancing blow, and not a serious injury. But once again, we have not found any of the hive cores. So we just keep getting hit with these minor wounds over and over again. They're starting to add up. Energy dropping very low. Oxygen is dropping critically low. And the health has dropped a little bit. So yeah, we're facing overwhelming numbers that will just keep replenishing. Because of that, I'm going to send Talia back in to try and at least keep thinning the herd while I send the rest of the squad back for oxygen. See how that goes. It's going exactly like you would expect, with just a single person. Even Talia being a good fighter, she's not able to hold back the swarm on her own. gets absolutely shredded by a couple of crawlers. Has to retreat with some bloody open wounds. Meanwhile, Squad 2 at least has cleaned up the eastern front for now. We can send them back in to try and overwhelm the western front with numbers. Getting Talia badly injured and Hayden very exhausted, getting them back on the shuttle, trying to rest up. But no rest for the weary as more alien eggs have spawned. Once again, the infestation is spreading through the vents of the ship, appearing back over on the eastern front. Finally, with 6 people on the western front here, we're able to push through and get our first glimpse of the alien hives over here. Clearing out 2 of those hive cores. Finding a 3rd as well. Try and blast that down and finally clear out this infestation. Quest face to face with the crawler. Takes some injuries, manages to back off. Hopefully, maybe, we've dealt with this now. Pausing briefly to see if anybody will pay our intrepid crew to finish off these last aliens, since a couple of ships have just arrived back in the sector. Doesn't look like it, so we are sending in a couple of folks to finish off this last hive core. Looks to be just about done, but the ship is not showing up as explored yet. It still isn't, even though we've seen everything, which means there must be something somewhere hostile still on this ship. So we are going to have to hunt it down. And meanwhile, Hayden is about to pass out. Tali is still injured. We're sending them back. And yep, there we go. A couple more aliens have spawned in. And there we go. After a much more difficult combat than I was hoping for, we have finally cleared out this derelict, secured this sector. We can reap the rewards, rescue this refugee, Katie. Hopefully be back on our way to defeat the slavers. So I'm hoping for either a decent new recruit out of Katie, or at least some good rewards for rescuing her. Since we did work awfully hard on her behalf just now. Let's see how that turns out. Also taking advantage of something that I've very rarely taken advantage of in this run, which is the ship services, NPCs. Getting some medical service for our injured people to try and get them healed up just as fast as we possibly can, so that we can move on and defeat the slavers as fast as possible, as fast as we possibly can. Now then, here is Katie Baxter. She is not very good. She's really not very good. She's an okay shield operator, but she has a lot of overlap with our existing people. She is not much of a fighter, and we really need fighters more than anything right now. So, we instead are hoping to just release her and rescue her for the refugee reward. However, minor detail, Katie belongs to the merchant faction. There's already merchant faction in this system, so she just immediately rejoined them. No cut for me, the middleman. And to make matters worse, she's even immediately started just looting up this derelict for the merchants. So not only do I not get any reward for rescuing her, I actually get reduced rewards because she's just going out and taking the stuff that I worked so hard for. As you can tell, I might be a little bit salty about that, but it is what it is. We've still done a good deed and gotten some combat experience and some loot off of that derelict, and we're leaving this sector a safer place than when we found it. And of course there are plenty of merchants here, and, well, we can do some last minute trading, or we prepare to head out and hunt down some more slavers. And conveniently enough, we're also able to find a mission to go out and hunt down some more slavers. So, time not wasted. Maybe not time well spent, but at least time not wasted as we power up the hyperdrive and roll out once again. Now here's something interesting. Tucked away in this far corner of the slaver homeworld, there is a slaver base. This big, weird, sort of eyeball-looking structure. I've never attacked a space station before. I don't really know what to expect. There is a derelict in-system that may or may not start spawning weird things, like those aliens or potentially rogue bots. So I'm trying to put my ship, the Snughaven, in a position where the derelict is going to attack the slavers and not me. So I'm going to tuck myself away in this corner here and see what I'm facing. So immediately looking at this, there's not a lot of weaponry on this station. Just some point defense, it looks like. But minor detail, there is a targeting jammer active, so while it can't really shoot at me, I cannot shoot at it at all. Which means there's exactly one option for dealing with this slaver station, and that is boarding. So I'm going to have to get all of my combat crew onto these shuttles, get shuttles through the point defense screen, get on board, and hopefully take over the station without suffering any casualties. Now veteran viewers might see me making an odd choice for my boarding party here, as I have selected not only Justin, who isn't great at combat, but also Ralph, who tends to ruin everything he interacts with, which a very bold choice on my part. I am hoping that I can learn how to use the deployable turrets that Justin and Ralph have in their inventories, that I can use them to sort of hold down, use those deployable turrets to sort of hold down key spots, choke points in the station here. So I run the gauntlet of point defense, get in there without too much difficulty, but now I have to actually get my crew onto the station. So I immediately try to take cover, but then immediately see that these slaver defenders have set up behind barricades in the entry hallway, which is a nasty little choke point, but they have not finished setting up. Some of their barricades are unoccupied, so I immediately change plans, just sprint on forward. My people have taken some pretty nasty hits from a couple of laser guns and assault rifles, but we're able to make it up to these barricades, crouch down. And now, I choose this tense moment to try and learn how to use these deployable turrets. Which is a questionable choice on my part, as, yeah, those turrets are not actually working. But as I'm fumbling with this, My very talented fighters have dealt with this initial line of defense, absolutely decimated those slavers in the entry hall. And, well, this first section of the station, at least, is ours without too much difficulty. But still, we're starting to get into the late game here. Those laser rifles that a lot of my people and several of the enemies are carrying, those will absolutely mess my people up. You know, the player's crew doesn't get plot armor in this. In fact, they don't really get any armor at all because the armor in this game is garbage. So yeah, just 1 or 2 shots from a laser rifle will instantly kill if you got unlucky enough. So I'm moving up very carefully, figuring out how to use these turrets, deploying them. I'll hold down the port as I move. I'm just moving up cover by cover, block by block, trying to make sure I have an overwhelming advantage against anybody who might come through those ominous red double doors there. So let's see, taking stock of the situation. Tyrus is lightly injured, bleeding. Talia, lightly injured, bleeding. Sarah, lightly injured, but does not appear to be bleeding. So, all in all, looks like we're doing okay. Justin's taken a decent hit too, but also not bleeding. I may or may not be spending a little bit too much time farting around with these turrets when I could be, continuing my momentum and charging onto the station here. But, hey, figuring things out, interacting with new parts of the game. Considering picking up another wave of reinforcements, sending a shuttle back to the Snughaven, it's getting it's getting some holes punched in it by the point defense, but it should make it through. Meanwhile, I'm trying and failing to figure out how to recover these undeployed turrets. So, well, you'll have to bear with me for a second as I'm getting frustrated trying to figure out this game mechanic I've never tried before. Eventually, I'll have no choice but to go through here. Alright, there we go. Finally starting to move on up. And now we have another factor in the equation, which is that the derelict has in fact started sending out rogue bots. They're going to harass the Snughaven and the slaver station in equal measure. But I'm not too worried about them. If they happen to approach the Snughaven, well, if I had anybody on operations, which I don't, but if I did have anybody on operations, my point defense would take these drones down very quickly. And here we go, the constant struggle of trying to get people on the stations you want them at. Got Burt Bob on ops, so those rogue drones should be easy pickings for him. Now I'm trying to figure out what the heck is going on this slaver station. Where is everybody? You know, their operations console appeared to be unmanned. Or that might be their shields console there. I'm trying to figure that out right now. Essentially, I'm trying to get this targeting jammer offline. Trying to get as many of their systems offline as I can. And it's not really going so well for me. But luckily for me, there is always the good old tried and true march through and shoot everybody until they stop doing things. So there we go. Now then, first action for the little auto turrets here, as the slaver captain, for some unknown reason, has decided he's just going to charge through the airlock corridor. Not even in combat, just walking menacingly towards my shuttles as 3-point defense turrets just shoot spitballs at him. And things do not stop getting weird with that, as suddenly a whole bunch of slaves have started to appear. I do not know where these ones at the airlock came from. I don't know how Seb, the captain, got onto my shuttle and is sticking his head out into space. I don't know what's going on, but suddenly there are just dozens of slaves manifesting all throughout the station. This is not how I expected this boarding off to go. I thought there would be some stiff resistance for sure. Finally starting to see a few more slavers here, pretty heavily armed, starting to make their way towards my people. I'm gonna try myself a flanking operation here. As I also try to figure out just what on earth is happening with all these slaves, with Seb, who's finally gotten linked down by the turrets. Alright, here we go. Getting a little beaten up here, but the slavers are getting more beaten up. Looks like there's potentially only one more actual armed fighting slaver. But once again, at this point in the game, can't take anything for granted. These weapons hurt, the armor is worthless. So, one misstep, and I could very easily just get wrecked, lose a couple of valuable people. Sure enough, Quest is injured, standing, bleeding, surrendered. Cannot interact with her. Cannot tend her wounds. She's just going to stand there, surrendered, until combat is over, which thankfully it looks like it is. Now the station still does not count as explored, but at least we're getting quests unsurrendered. She'll be able to go get her wounds tended. We can start, hopefully in relative peace, start moving through the station, exploring it until we can actually salvage it and take care of all of these slaves that are on here. It is, however, getting absolutely pelted by asteroids right now, and I'm sure there are more rogue bots incoming, so I'm going to need to put up some kind of defense, trying to send out some fighters and fend off these threats so that I can rescue all these slaves safely and salvage safely as well. But aside from that, right now we're just starting the not super interesting process of moving through this place room by room by room, clearing out the fog of war until finally the station counts as explored, at which point hopefully we should be able to just free all of the slaves in one action instead of going through them one by one, releasing each one individually. That is the hope, at the very least. Bad news for me is that there are a ton of tiny rooms in here. So it's going to take a little while to clear out all this fog of war. But we're getting there, and it's pretty exciting because I've never had this many refugees. Finally, we've got this thing explored, all the slavers are dealt with permanently, and now we can figure out this refugee situation. Still have not gotten a good head count. How many people are here? It is a lot. I don't think it's quite sunk in yet, just how much work it's going to be to take care of these guys. But we gotta do what we gotta do. So there we go. We're gonna free all the slaves, make them refugees, take them aboard the Snughaven. Starting to try to get a head count here. About half a dozen on this screen. About half a dozen on the previous screen. Trying to use my tooltips there to figure out how many are here, how many people I have to feed, do I have enough food, all of that. But the tooltips only take into account what's actually on board the Snughaven at this particular moment in time. So it doesn't do me much good. We'll have to wait until I have all of these refugees on board. But here we go. Starting the long process of collecting all of the food and supplies that we could possibly collect from this space station, stripping it down for anything valuable, dealing with the rogue bot threats, and dealing with the asteroid threats, hopefully, eventually. Getting our refugee quarters set up. And generally getting ready for what's going to be a very serious task of actually caring for all these people that we've just rescued. Here we go. We're up to 25 people on board the Snughaven right now. That might not even be the full head count. But of course we need to make sure we have beds for everybody, medical supplies for everybody, food for everybody. We need to deal with the gas balance, the oxygen, the carbon dioxide, all of that. It means we're going to need new beds, new medical beds, new oxygen generators, new CO2 scrubbers. We need to find a room for all that stuff as well, because, yeah, the Snughaven was packed pretty tightly to begin with, and now all of a sudden we have, God, what, a dozen refugees? Roughly? So we've roughly doubled our head count. Found a nice little stockpile of supplies on board the bot's ship. That's going to help out quite a bit. As we keep trying to just get enough infrastructure to care for all of these refugees. As well as laying out their allowed areas, making sure they have access to all their beds, as well as a nice lounge area, as well as food, and all of that good stuff. So yeah, this is a pretty complex logistical undertaking. In fact, the logistics might be harder than the actual freeing the slaves part, because all in all, that station assault was not that difficult. Really only faced heavy resistance at the very beginning and the very end. Not much in between, and really, my crew was more than a match for the handfuls of slavers that were sent against them. But here we go. Gotten set up. And have found the military alliance, to whom some number of these refugees belong. So here we go. We've let them know we have their refugees on board, and are going to turn over said refugees for some kind of reward. which is not much of a reward. 1,200 credits, a little bit of booze, and some carbon. It sounds like a really nice reward because they also promise laser rifles and assault rifles. However, the NPCs never deliver on those promises of weapons. A little bit of a bug there. So, underwhelming reward for the amount of work that was. However, there are more refugees to find homes for, and as always, good deeds are their own reward. We are doing this not for the money, but for the satisfaction of having freed slaves, having made people's lives better, and generally for making this galaxy a better place. So, that is just about gonna wrap it up for this episode. I'm going to finish turning over these refugees, turn in these couple of missions that I've completed to help the military alliance withstand the solar storm and micrometeoroids and everything that's about to slam this sector, and then move on to the next one. Find more refugees' homes, and keep on keeping on until everybody is safe and these slaver homeworlds are fully cleansed of the slaver scourge. So, that is that. As always, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, this is Captain Snuggles, signing off.